They say when a baby is born, so is a mother. But while you are there to help your baby grow into the person he or she is meant to be, who is there to help you? Many women feel lost and alone when they become mothers, wondering, who am I now? Sometimes it feels like the transformation from woman to mother is as radical as a caterpillar's transformation into a butterfly. Did you know that inside the chrysalis, the caterpillar literally turns into goop before it rearranges itself into a butterfly? This podcast is about the goop, what soul transformation looks like as you transition from being a woman to a mom. Your baby's growth matters, but yours does too. You're not alone. I'm your host, Brittany Ming. Welcome to the Motherhood Metamorphosis.
Welcome everyone to this episode of the Motherhood Metamorphosis. I'm your host, Brittany Ming, and today we are talking to Savannah Hartzler. Savannah is a labor and delivery nurse, mom to two rambunctious toddlers, and a fiber arts enthusiast. For the past 2 years, she has been travel nursing all over the US with her little family, working while her husband and most incredible support stays home with the kids. She is intimately acquainted with the growing pains of juggling professional ambitions with the joys and demands of motherhood while still trying to dedicate time to the hobbies that fuel her spirit. So I love that you wrote fiber arts enthusiast. And I know somebody's going to be like, what is a fiber arts enthusiast? So tell us, Savannah, tell about your fiber arts.
I've started phrasing it that way because my collection of craft hobbies just keeps growing. It started with knitting and crochet, and then cross stitch and needlepoint. And now I'm spinning, and I'm going to pick up weaving as soon as we settle down. So it just keeps growing. Eventually I would love to get like an alpaca or something, but so I just basically anything with yarn or thread and I'm in.
Yes, I love that the alpaca is lumped into the fiber arts enthusiasm because of course you need like the alpaca and the llama and the sheets. At this point. Yes. It's going to grow into a whole farm.
That's the goal.
Yes. So for our listeners who are listening, Savannah and I are really good friends. So we'll see if we can stay on topic on this conversation, but we're going to have a really great time. I'm super excited to have her on today. So when we were talking about what to discuss for the podcast, we landed on you being a working mom, you being a primary breadwinner in your family, and the narratives that shape us as mothers as it relates to work versus being at home or wherever we end up landing in our current family situation, how that might look different from the way we grew up. So I was wondering if you could start by telling us your story and what that looks like in your family right now.
Yeah. So as you know, you and I came from very similar backgrounds, big family oriented, homeschool, and primarily stay at home moms. And I was thinking about it kind of leading up to our meeting today. And I really didn't know any working moms at all until I was in high school. And there was maybe like one or two at our church, but primarily we were surrounded by these stay-at-home homeschool moms. And so that really shaped how I viewed motherhood and how I guess expected that life was supposed to go. And I don't know that it was ever like explicitly said that it was the only right way. Probably in some circles it was explicitly said, but largely it was just presented as the way that, you get married, your husband works, 80 hours a week and your family never sees him. And, he's trying to support the 90 children that you have. And, the motherhood role is homeschooling and dishes and laundry and staying home. And so that's basically all I ever had modeled for me. So when I got married, when I was in nursing school, I knew several people who were there just to find husbands. And I was like, why are you putting yourself through such a horrific program? Nursing school is not easy. It is still one of the most difficult things I've done in my life. Why would you put yourself through this just to find a husband and get married and have kids and then not work? I was like, I'm definitely not working. Like, since I've put myself through this is what I'm going to do. So then after my husband and I got married, we started having kids very young, somewhat on accident, somewhat from cultural expectation. And so we had only been married for like, I guess a year or a year and a half before we had our son. And all of a sudden I was thrown into trying to figure out, how do we juggle two working parents, or do I stay home? But we couldn't really afford it at the time. And I really felt that I had to figure it out completely on my own. And at the time when my first was born, I was working full-time night shift as a labor and delivery nurse. And many of the night shift nurses had young kids. And the reason that they worked night shift was because they didn't have great childcare, and they would basically stay up 24/7. They would work at night and watch their kids during the day. And I cannot do that. I was fortunate that I had my sister living with us for a bit, and a sister-in-law to be close by. And they really helped me with childcare multiple days a week so that I could get sleep. But, like, I just didn't have anyone to turn to help me figure out how to juggle this. At one point, I remember talking to my mom about struggling with pumping at work and my breast milk supply, and just being so upset and anxious about, how much milk I was getting and how to, like, manage the pumping. And all she said was, "I can't really help you with that because I never had to pump at all. I was always home with the babies." And so it really felt like mostly flying by the seat of my pants, honestly. And then I unexpectedly got pregnant with my second when my son was 6 months old. And that was truly, truly an accident. And at that point, my husband and I were just barely making ends meet. I'd used all my PTO already for my first baby. And I was like, I wasn't going to be able to take a maternity leave at all. And it was going to kind of sink us, basically. And we'd kind of thrown around the idea of travel nursing because I'd be making significantly more than we were combined, even if I was the only one working. And so we talked about it a lot, as far as, like, how did he feel about it? How did I feel about it? And what we came down to is that even though we were both raised with the expectation of the man as the breadwinner and the woman stays at home with the children, we were like, it logistically and financially does not make sense for me to stay home with these children and for you to be the one working full time, because what my husband was making was, like, a quarter of what I could be making as a travel nurse. And so we just kind of launched out on our own path. We flipped the script on what we'd been raised with. And now he's the primary stay-at-home parent and does all of the laundry and dishes and groceries and things that you would expect from the stay-at-home parent, would it be a mom. But people are kind of shocked to find out that that's what he does as the stay-at-home dad. As a man, they were like, "Oh, well, if my husband stayed home, like, I would still have to do all the groceries and dishes and laundry." And I just think that's bullshit. So yeah, that's where we're at now. We've been travel nursing for 2 years. And for the past 5 months, right now we're in Boston, Massachusetts. And so the past 5 months, I've been working actually 48 hours a week, which is more than full time. And it's been truly horrible in just how exhausted I am. And I'm a rotating nurse, so I work day shift and night shift. So we're finally done with that season. I'm dropping down to 36 hours a week, which is just full time.
Just full time.
Just full time. So I really still now even don't have a great idea of how to balance being a mom and being a working mom, because there's all these narratives in my head of, like, if you were a good mom, you would be home with your kids all the time. If you were a good mom, you would be the one being their primary caregiver. And nobody has ever, like, verbally said that to me, but that has become the voice in my head and in my heart, where I feel, especially when I'm working like 3 or 4 shifts in a row, I'll go 3 or 4 days in a row without seeing them, maybe at all, or maybe for 5 minutes. And so, like, and I know regardless of what you do, the mom guilt is there, but I definitely really feel it when I go for days at a time without seeing them at all. And that's been really, really hard to deal with. And my husband's amazing. He's like, "You're such a great mom. You're pouring yourself into setting them up for such a great life. And it's just a season." But that voice is still there for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love hearing you just share this and hearing you share those patterns that you grew up with and I grew up with. I was thinking when you were saying, did I know any working moms? Like, I didn't know any working moms at all.
Yeah.
At all. Even like when I first became a mom, I was like, do I know working moms? And then I kind of met some women and I'm like, whoa, you can do, I felt like they were just like amazing. Like you can work and be a mom. And I know that if you didn't grow up like we did, maybe that sounds kind of silly if you're listening to this, but like truly, like this is the way we grew up. Like it was very insular, and these were the people that we saw on a day-to-day basis. And I think that if you only see that pattern growing up, it can be so hard to set out on your own path and say,
Mhm.
oh, wow, what if I was the primary working parent? Like, what does that even mean for me to be a mother and also be the primary breadwinner in my family? I mean, talk to me about feeling lost, like feeling like you don't have a foundation to stand on. Can you talk to me about those feelings?
It really, the only word I can use is kind of discombobulating because I am a really good nurse. I professionally, like, I'm very smart. I'm very very involved in my patient care. Like, it's pretty rare to see me outside of my patient's room when I have a laboring mom or a post C-section. Like, I'm just all in all the time. And so in that aspect of my life, like I've got it. I know what I'm doing. I'm very like, once I got past the new nurse phase, 1-2 years in, like I got it. But when it comes to the mom stuff, I just feel like I'm constantly floundering and, wrestling with external and internal expectations of what being an involved mom looks like. And then also wrestling with what my specific children need from me, and it goes through phases, especially like if I work 4 shifts in a row and they don't see me for over half the week, then they will be more clingy and needy and like need a lot of attention. And I can't like pitch into the house hardly at all. Like I just literally have them like in my arms constantly. And like I said, I still haven't completely figured out like where the balance or the best way to handle it is, because too, like I get because I'm so all in on my job, it's so mentally, physically, and emotionally taxing that when I come home, I'm absolutely exhausted. And for the first day or two off, I'm like literally brain dead. Like my brain is running on low power mode and I can barely function. And so, still trying to be involved and to, be a present mother while I can actively feel my brain like dissociating every 5 minutes because it's just exhausted.
Yeah.
Um, and that's just kind of where it is right now. Like I don't have any answers.
Yeah. I think that we talked about narratives and we talked about like good mom narratives that we believe or like that you feel internally and externally. And this narrative of that a good mother is present, like emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually with her children and able to give and give and give. But when you pull back and you're like, I'm a human being and I need rest and I need like nourishment, whether that's emotional or like food, and I need to
Right.
take care of myself so that I can give to my kids. It's just like sometimes those feel like polar opposites of how can I fulfill this good mom role and how can I actually take care of myself as a human being. And I think this is one of those huge things that men don't have, like that men don't deal with.
Mhm.
Like if a
Mhm.
man worked the hours that you worked and then came
Mhm.
home and said, "Hey, I need to sleep like all day long. I need to be in my bedroom and like have nobody bothering me." We would think, "Okay, sure, of course. Like daddy needs to rest. Like dad needs like time to recharge." And then he'll come out and like, play with the kids and, maybe watch TV with his wife or like whatever it may be.
Mhm.
That would be the expectation, and we would think like, oh, what a good dad, like what a good dad he is, like providing for his family and then coming home and resting up, but then like being the fun parent. So
Have you seen the meme that's like fun dad and bad mom? And they're the same things where it's like dad, fun dad brings fast food and bad mom brings fast food. That's what I'm thinking of like while you're talking about that.
yeah.
That like the expectations for men and women, even when they're both working or even when one is the primary breadwinner and the other one isn't, they're just completely different.
Yeah, I have seen that and I appreciate it, and it also just like makes me mad and then also feel kind of despondent. Like how,
Yeah.
like that's a reality, but it's also like we expect women to be extra human or to not have needs that are outside of like that are like a normal human need, like rest and the ability to emotionally take care of themselves. Like it just seems like no, 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 no. Like you don't need those things. You just need to keep giving and
Mhm,
giving and
mhm.
giving and giving. And I think this is why so many women struggle with mental health issues. I mean,
Yes.
and
Yes.
like especially this like postpartum anxiety and depression,
Mhm,
because we're
mhm.
thrown into this role that our culture demands more and more and more and more and more, and then doesn't give us the ability to recharge, doesn't give us permission
Mhm,
to
mhm.
recharge without heaping on guilt. And then no one can function like that without your mental health and physical health suffering. But then
Yeah,
we just keep going in this cycle that's really
yeah,
just can make you crazy.
yeah.
I mean, for lack of a
And
better
that
word.
yeah, that was something that, the US as a whole does a horrible job of taking care of moms postpartum. Like, you don't get seen at all in the OB office until you're 6 weeks. Like, most people are, like, just dying and floundering with breastfeeding and postpartum depression and anxiety for those first 6 weeks, and they see you and they're like, "You're good," and send you on your way. For some people, that's the only maternity leave they get. If you're lucky, you get 12 weeks, which is just not enough time, and, like, it just sets you up to do so poorly, especially when you're working. Because with my first, I had some pretty horrific vaginal tearing that was not completely healed at 12 weeks. And I went back to work, like, I was still wearing ice packs in my underwear and, like, could only stand for so long because it was so painful. And my, like, everywhere is short staffed with nurses right now. We were especially short staffed at the time there. And so I had one shift by myself before they gave me an orientee who was a new grad nurse. And so I was having to, like, remember how to do my job as I'm trying to figure out pumping, as I'm trying to, like, still physically heal and teach a brand new nurse. Like you say, the transformation from woman to motherhood is a radical transformation, physically, mentally, emotionally. Like, there's a lot going on, and then the US says, "Okay, you're good to go back to work. You've taken your max maternity leave at 3 months postpartum. Your baby might barely be sleeping now. Go have fun working full time."
Yeah.
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 It very much does color the whole, like, everything that you go through, because it takes so much longer to heal, and you start out already buried into a hole.
Hmm. Yes. And at the same time, your body's trying to heal. Like your soul is trying to like be like, who am I now? And what am I supposed to be doing? And then I have all these expectations of and pressures from culture and from my family of origin and from, expectations from my spouse or whatever it may be to be and fulfill this motherhood role. So it is tough. So if you are going through that right now and you're like, why is this so hard? It's because it's super freaking hard. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
give yourself some grace. So if you as you have travel nursed and you've been away from your family, you and Ben have been forming your own family dynamics. How do you think you've changed as a person in the way that you mother or the way that you look at work and life? Like, has that shifted for you?
Definitely. I think one of the biggest things that we as a couple have gotten out of him being the stay-at-home parent is that he is a self-sufficient and equal partner to me in parenthood. And I think people don't really realize how much that isn't true in their own relationships until they start digging into it. But, like, even in the beginning when we were both working, and we were both kind of like dual tasking work and being at home with our son, I would be the one to think through, like, do we have all the things that we need to have to go out to the doctor or the park or whatever, and, like, going through the mental checklist and double triple checking with him that he grabbed the things that I asked him to. And I think that's way too common, that women carry the entire mental load whether or not they are working as well as their partner. So it really forced me to trust him, because I wasn't the primary one involved in getting them out the door to the park or getting them, dressed to go play in the snow. He just had to figure it out, a little bit of a trial by fire thing. And he's completely self-sufficient, and they do their thing, and it might be different than how I would do it, but they manage and they survive, and he does a great job. I can completely trust and leave him with the kids even for days at a time, and and they do just fine. And I can mentally lay down that load. So I feel like that's a huge thing that has changed. And I'm beyond thankful that I have the partner that I do, because I talk to way too many people whose partners don't know how to put their kids to bed, or like don't know how to pack the diaper bag, you know. So I think that's really been a huge shift. And then really just finding the moments for me and him when the toddlers are in bed has been a really big key, because with the two toddlers, they don't always nap at the same time. And I think what makes us better parents and what makes me a better mom is when he and I seek each other out intentionally. And it's hard because we can never go on date nights. You know, we don't have babysitters everywhere that we go, but it's built a level of intentionality into our marriage where after the kids are in bed, even if it's just, you know, holding hands and scrolling on TikTok together, we make sure that we're grounded in our relationship with each other, so that, like you said, you can't just give and give and give and give. And one of the things that fills us up is to spend time with each other so that we can give to our teething and extremely needy toddlers, you know, when they are awake. Those, I think, are really some of the big things. And then also realizing that it's, you know, humans were not meant to do parenthood or life in a vacuum. And being on the other side of the country from my family has really opened my eyes to, like, you kind of need a community. You need the village to help you raise your kids and not go crazy while you're doing it, or at least I do. And so that's really kind of helped us reevaluate our priorities. So this will be the last travel contract that we do for quite some time, because we are ready to settle down close to our friends and our community in order to do this parenthood thing as better or as well as we can, you know, that we can lift each other up and support each other through these difficult years.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And I think that it's so insightful that you guys have said, we need this and we're going to make a choice to do this. Because sometimes I think in motherhood, you often don't know what you need. You're like, I'm struggling and I don't know how to fix it, you know, or I'm just like locked into this path or this job or this 9 to 5 grind or this relationship, and I just have to keep going. And I think women who are in that situation are walking a brave path, but it's also one that can kind of chip away at your soul. And you often have a really hard time coming back to what you love and what you need to make you feel like a
Mhm,
whole person. So it's like
mhm,
this tension between I'm doing what's best for my family and also realizing that you may not always be giving yourself what you need to feel your best or feel like yourself. So I think that's always a process
mhm,
of like becoming. So I like to hearing how you guys have sought the best way to parent for your family with him being the primary parent, how you
mhm.
guys have sought the best as a couple and trying to fulfill each other up. And also you're saying this isn't really the way we want to ultimately always do our family. So you're making a choice to move back by your sister. So, because we've talked
Yes,
about this. Yeah. So this
yes.
can be, you can raise your babies together and, vent and drink wine on the front porch and,
Have a
all those
yard
things.
for my kids to run around in because the apartment is just not enough.
Yes. Yes. No more apartment life.
No more apartment life. Yeah.
I think this is such an important conversation because I think our culture idolizes the stay at home mom, even if they ignore them. So it's like they're up on such a high pedestal that no one can see them up in the clouds. But, but that's like an ideal that we hold up, like, like the stay at home mom, like you
Mhm,
are the
mhm.
angel in the house.
The
But
most
someone,
selfless pinnacle of motherhood.
yes. But being a working mom is like the reality for the majority of women, whether
Mhm.
they're working from home or they're working outside the home. And let's face it, all women are working women. Like all moms are working moms, whether or not you're getting paid for your labor or not. So let's just throw that out there because it's important to say.
Yeah.
But yeah. So if you were going to talk to another woman who is in your shoes, maybe she and her husband or spouse or partner are looking to say, maybe I should be the primary breadwinner. Like maybe we're striking out on a new path, some a path that looks really different from the way that we grew up or that our family may not understand. what would you say to encourage her as a working mom?
I think my biggest encouragement is that you are a good mom and that what you're choosing for your family in this season, because it works best for your family in this season, makes you a good mom, and the fact that you may not be the primary caregiver of your kids and seeing them 24/7 doesn't make you less important in their lives or less involved in their lives. So I think that you just need to repeat over and over again, as I do all the time, you're a good mom. And then two, lay down the mental burdens of the day in and day out care of your kids and let your partner, who is the stay-at-home parent, fend for themselves a little bit. They will be okay and your kids will be okay. And you can't carry the mental burden of everything all the time. And so I think a little bit of like releasing that guilt and releasing that burden is important to surviving it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that we just need to say, I can't, that social expectation, I can't carry. Because I think a lot of women feel that social expectation to be all and do all. And that
Mhm.
includes saying, no, 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 partner in life whom I chose and had babies with, you can't do it as well as I can. And they can, like, they really can. And it may look different from the way you would do it. And it may annoy you to death, but it's okay that their way is the way they do it. And they can.
For me, yeah, for me, the two big things that I had to really let go was how my husband loaded the dishwasher. Just let it go. Doesn't matter. Just let it go. He's got it. And what he dresses the kids in. He dresses them like little homeless hobos 90% of the time. Like they have all these cute matching outfits that he never pairs together, right? And he's like, oh, plaid and plaid, that goes together. And I'm like, no, babe, that's like the opposite of what goes together. But you know what? They're dressed, they're fed, they're fine. It's okay.
That's great.
I don't need to have this Instagram influencer, like, perfectly coiffed, tiny, model children. It's okay. They're adorable the way that they are. They're ragamuffins and it's okay.
Yes, it is 100% okay. Well, this was such a great conversation. And I hope that whoever listens is encouraged and maybe gives them a little bit, food for thought, like a little bit of a deep breath and saying, like, okay, I'm doing okay. I'm working outside the home, being a badass. I'm doing okay.
Hmm.
I'm a good mom.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
I like to end all of our sessions with these rapid fire questions. And I'm very excited to hear your answers to these because they're going to be lots of fun. So, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay. Which Disney princess would you like to take out to coffee?
Okay, so she's not technically a princess, but Luisa from Encanto, I feel like she and I would relate on a lot of levels. I feel like that would be a good coffee and cry sesh.
Yes. Yes. And then she could sing her song and you can do the dance and
Exactly.
everything.
Yes.
Maybe the
100%.
donk maybe the donkeys would even show up.
My alpaca joins in.
Yes, the alpaca. The alpaca would come, do some yarn crafts. I bet Louisa would
Hmm.
be a good knitter. She would need
Love
that.
it.
It's very relaxing.
Good.
All right. What's one thing you must have on your nightstand?
Always water and always my phone because it's my alarm.
Yep, you got to wake up for your work session, right?
I do.
Yep. Darn it. What's your go-to treat after the kids go to bed?
Honestly, I love to eat dinner after they go to bed because they are at the age where they just beg me for everything that I have. And I just like to sit and eat in peace and quiet. Like that's my happy place.
I feel that in my soul. Like
Yeah.
not having anybody demand anything of you while you eat dinner, like that's a good place to be. Like for
Like
real.
I just didn't know when I was, in high school and college, like how good I had it. Just sit down and eat and enjoy it and not have somebody begging me for every bite that I put in my mouth.
Yes, exactly. An ordinary moment that brings you great joy.
Hmm. Sleepy cuddles with my babies. Like when they're sleepy is when they're the cuddliest and they'll just let me, like curl up around them and oh, I just love it so much.
Yeah, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. The last show you binged and loved.
Okay, my husband and I are binging Love is Blind on Netflix. We love to revel in how awful everyone is and just be like, wow, we have such a good relationship.
You're like, this
So
is
we haven't
trash TV we
I
love.
know. I know. That's the best part about reality television is be like, wow, my life is really good. So we haven't seen the finale yet. I think we'll watch that tonight, but we've been like devouring it.
I love that. If you run out of this, besides milk, you have to go to the store.
Earl Grey tea.
I love that. We are tea buddies at heart.
Mm-hmm.
No, Earl Grey is not my favorite. So I love that you love Earl Grey because I can appreciate different tastes in tea.
Yes. I go through phases where I'll drink something else for a while and then I'll come back to it and be like, no, this is definitely
Yeah, this is my sweet spot. Yep. Who makes you laugh?
my sister Sierra, who we're gonna go live next to after all this is over.
She is hilarious.
She is hilarious. She makes me laugh so hard I like cry.
Yeah, I love her Facebook post. I'm always like, where is the laugh cry emoji? Because I'm sorry for you, but you're so funny that I'm just laughing. And I know she's sharing it to be funny. So I usually just do a laughing face. So
yeah, she's a master.
When you were 5 years old, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I think I always wanted to be a mom, honestly. And I know that partly that's because that's really what was modeled to me that women grew up to be. But I really do find so much fulfillment and satisfaction in being a mom. Like that's always just been a part of my heart.
What are you looking forward to?
Being done with this contract because I'm going to take a few months off of work completely and kind of reevaluate my life and if I want to keep bedside nursing or what I'm going to do. And I'm also going to go away for a weekend to a hotel all by myself and just be an introvert and read books. So that is what I'm looking forward to.
Yay! I can't wait to hear about that. And all the books you read, because we love to share our book. What are you reading right now? Finish this sentence. Motherhood is
such a growing process.
That's all that needs to be said. Thank you so much, Savannah, for coming on today. I loved this conversation and I loved the idea of the good mother and kind of reevaluating that. I actually just did a solo podcast about this. Interested in listening to that podcast, it is on the February Patreon.
I love it.
If you're interested in listening to that Patreon episode, you can go to patreon.com/the motherhood metamorphosis and choose the butterfly package. And I talk
where all the cool kids are.
That's right. That's right. All three of you.
Right? That's where we are.
Right. All right. Thanks so much, Savannah. I'm so glad I got to talk to you today.
Thank you so much, Brittany. I always love chatting with you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Motherhood Metamorphosis. If you've enjoyed this episode, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to this channel so you never miss an episode. Next, tell your friends. Podcasts are a slow growth type of social media, so promo works best when it's from person to person. If you know another mom who's in the goop right now, send her a text of encouragement and the link to the episode that is speaking to your heart right now. If you have a story about your own matrescence, the physical, emotional, hormonal, and social transition that occurs when someone becomes a mother, please leave a comment below. I want this channel to be a place where women can build community about the challenges and joys of their own motherhood metamorphosis. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope it encouraged you and gave you some good food for thought. If you ever have any questions, comments, or you'd like to reach out to me personally, you can email me at brittanyaming@gmail.com.
I love that you're in your car. I feel like that's really smart.
I'm also sitting like right in front of my apartment building, so like I know people are gonna be looking at me.
Don't mind me, just recording a podcast here.